Okay, so this vehicle, Gemini, shares a lot of features with regular cars used today. And it's designed to show the promise and functionality of EVs, especially those powered through unconventional means. The team also does a ton of research, outreach, spreading the word about renewable energy and STEM education. So let's welcome Maria Aguiar to the podium.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Tony. And thanks, everyone, for coming. So, as you've said already, my name is Maria. I'm the vice captain of the MIT Solar Electric Vehicle team. And we're a student-run build team, and we design, build these cars by hand, and then eventually we race them. So we're going to explore how we approach sustainable design, not just through the cars we build, but through the skills and lessons that we learn along the way. So a little more about us. We were founded in 1987 by James Warden under the Edgerton Center. And the Edgerton Center at MIT is dedicated to expanding hands-on and experiential learning for students, especially undergrads. And the Edgerton Center houses several build teams such as ourselves, the MIT Motorsports team, the Rocket team, and a variety of other build teams that, much like ourselves, have an ambitious project that they want to complete within a year or several years, and they bring several people or many people together to make that a reality. So what we do specifically, we have these build cycles that are usually 2 to 3 years, where, again, we design, manufacture them by hand, and then we take them to a 2-part competition, which I'll elaborate on further. But our goal with these cars is to apply whatever we learn in the classroom, all that theory, and learn by doing, and learn through trial and error. So more details about this race that we take our cars to. So the first part of this race is the Formula Sun Grand Prix. And what this is essentially a track race. But before we can even get on the track, we need to get through a lot of safety inspections. We have these inspectors look at the mechanical and electrical systems and many other parts of the car to ensure that they're safe. Because there is a driver. We have a team member inside of the car that's driving this on the road. So we want to make sure that our cars are safe. And then after we pass our inspections, we can then move on to the racetrack part of the race. And this is really different from a typical car race that we're probably used to seeing, where instead of being rewarded for speed or acceleration or how fast your car can go, we instead focus on endurance and how quickly and how far we can go and how reliable our car is. That reliability and endurance is one of our priorities with designing a car. So once we complete as many laps as we can, where we're judged on the amount of miles that our car is able to run, we can then qualify for the second part of the race, which is the American Solar Challenge. And as the name suggests, it is a truly challenging part of the race of these 2 parts, because we take the car out of this controlled environment, out of the racetrack, and take it onto real roads, onto state highways, where we drive alongside normal cars and semis, and it can be a little scary sometimes. And this is where we actually go for 7 to 9 days on essentially a road trip across the country. And the purpose of this part of the race is to show just what solar power can do for cars and how it can compare to a typical gas-powered car. And there's lots of things that solar power kind of brings to the table that you wouldn't see with a gas-powered car. And we can explore that through our previous car, which was Nimbus. So Nimbus raced last summer and the summer before. And we're happy to say that Nimbus actually won both of these races. For the first time since 1995, our team earned a title with this car. And she's truly special. It is a single occupant vehicle. You can see this bubble on the right-hand side. That's where the driver sits. And this car last summer drove nearly 2,000 miles from Missouri to Idaho, completing various loops and additional miles along the way. And the cool thing about this car is that on a sunny day, driving at 40 miles per hour, you can go completely energy neutral. What that means is that any energy you spend from driving at that speed is immediately made up for because the car is passively recharging as it's driving with the sun's rays. So as long as there's sun out, Nimbus could go basically forever. And compared to a gas-powered car where you have to worry about, oh, what if I run out of gas? Or I need to stop at a gas station along the way? Or what if I get stranded on the side of the road? Well, with Nimbus, it's good to be stranded on the side of the road because you can just park it and let it charge. And after you wait a bit, you can just go on your way. And that's exactly how we were able to drive such a long distance, simply by stopping on the side, letting it charge for a bit, and moving on. So after we raced Nimbus and we had our success, we didn't want to just stop there. We wanted, moving on to a next car, to make improvements and to address the practicality and the functionality of these cars. So So we had some questions about Nimbus. For example, how can we make the charging better? How can we make its range better? Because when we charge Nimbus, you can kind of see it here at Race. We prop up the array so that it's aligned with the sun to get as much charge as we can. It's difficult when you don't have sun outside, or if it's cloudy, or if it's rainy. So we wanted to design a car that had better range, and so that we could store enough power in case the conditions didn't become ideal. Another thing is that Nimbus, as you saw before, is single occupant, so there's just one person there, whereas most cars that we're used to seeing today have at the very least 2 seats, and most SUVs now have 4 or 5 seats, and then we have even bigger cars. So there are also features that aren't entirely necessary in a car, but they're still valued a lot. For example, sound and music systems, navigation, Google Maps, Apple CarPlay. They're not super necessary, but they're seen in nearly every car that's on the market today. So we had all of these questions, and we had all these challenges after Nimbus, and we wanted to try something different. And this is where Gemini comes in, mentioned earlier. So this is a recent model of what the vehicle looks like. It's our first multi-occupant car, which means it has a driver and a passenger. And we added multiple changes to sort of address the questions that we mentioned earlier. For example, we're going to have a larger panel area. That means we're going to have more solar cells on this top of the car. You can kind of see the tail extend to the right. All of that is panel area. And then we're going to have a much larger battery, so that extends our range. And so if the conditions aren't ideal all the time, our car can still keep going at higher speeds. Another thing is that our compartments for the driver and the passenger are a lot bigger. We don't just have a little bubble for the driver. We have a lot more space and legroom that you can compare to a standard car. And then another thing that we're trying new is an infotainment system. So what that means is now we're developing a dash system that's going to have music and Apple CarPlay and Google Maps and weather data and all of those fun features that you'd see on the dash of a car today. So with Gemini, we're hoping to address the questions of practicality. So how do we make this happen? Because we have a team of people, and this is an ambitious project. And if we want to race by the summer of 2024, so not this summer, but the next, we kind of have a timeline to deal with. So how our team does this is we're divided into sort of 3 subsystems. The first one is aerodynamics and composites. So they deal with making sure that they can minimize the amount of energy it takes to move Gemini forward. Because with a typical car with combustion, you have a lot of energy that allows it to go forward. But with us, we're running off of the same amount of power as like a toaster. So it's a little difficult. And we want to make sure that we save as much energy as possible and minimize the drag, make sure we have a lightweight car so that the motor doesn't have to work as hard to push a lot of pounds forward. So aerodynamics and composites, they work on not only designing a smooth and sleek car that looks really different from a typical car, but also working with lightweight materials, composites, to make sure that we have a car that can just cut through and go pretty fast. And then we have our mechanical system. So these are systems that you'd be more familiar with a typical car, like suspension, steering, brakes, all of that. And mechanical ensures that the car can roll smoothly and it can stop safely. And so then once we combine mechanical and aerodynamics and composites, we have a carriage. So it can just roll forward. But we need something to propel it, and we need energy. And that's what the electrical team specializes in. So these members work on the motor, they work on the battery, they work on the array. They make sure that the car has energy for this carriage to become a car that can zoom on a racetrack. And all of these subsystems have projects within them that team members kind of choose and work on, no matter their experience. And so with these projects, we design everything ourselves, manufacture ourselves, and then make sure that we integrate together. So with Gemini, we're actually at a really exciting stage where we're doing manufacturing right now. So on the upper left, you can kind of see an image of our aeroshell. Over January, during our independent activities period, we went to a boat shop in Maine and spent 2 weeks handling composites and fitting them to molds to make this curvy-looking car, this aeroshell. And you can see people for scale. It's quite big compared to Nimbus, for example. Right now, these photos on the right and on the lower left, these are our chassis panels, which we're working on right now. So the chassis refers to sort of the skeleton of a car. So all of the important components are attached to the chassis, and the chassis is what really bears all the forces of the road when your car is driving. So we want to make sure the chassis is strong, lightweight, and we put it all together by hand. So here's some photos from the process. And then once you fit the chassis in the shell, you can attach all your mechanical components. You have the carriage, Then you add all the electrical components, and boom, you're ready to race. So that's sort of what our timeline's looking like. And it's really exciting because all of this we learn from each other, and we learn from older members. This is all knowledge that we pass down throughout the years. And even though we're a relatively young team, we're mostly freshmen, sophomores, and juniors, we still teach each other what we need to know. And that's one of the things that we're super proud of as a team. When I joined the team, I didn't really have any machining experience. I didn't really do robots. We do have a lot of members who have worked with robots in high school before, but a lot of us didn't have that experience before. But with our more knowledgeable teammates, we're able to learn how to become better engineers, and we're able to gain those important skills. And because we're sort of inviting to everyone in this sense, we have a really diverse set of teammates. We're happy to share that for the past 3 years, our team has been predominantly female-led. And we think this is pretty cool because often this sort of diversity is starting to become more prevalent in industry, but it's not all the way there. And this bubble of inclusion is really exciting, and we learn a lot through that. Another thing is that being in a solar-powered car team, you have a lot of people brought together who are passionate about sustainability, whether it's with electric vehicles or beyond. And all of these people gain important skills needed for the real world. Because balancing classes with all of the things related to the team is difficult. With a team, we need to worry about recruitment or spending or fundraising or project management, in addition to all those strange and difficult engineering questions that aren't necessarily straightforward. In our classes, we have our homework having typical question and answer direct responses. But here, we gain our answers by doing, by building, by trial and error, by seeing what works and what doesn't, and by passing down the knowledge as best we can. So by doing this, we're able to prepare for a lot of sustainability-related projects outside of the team. So a lot of our alums have gone on to work in startups related to electric vehicles. We have an alum now who's working in a startup related to mining sustainability. How can we recycle mining waste and extract useful materials from that? That's another way to address sustainability. And then one of our most recent alums, who was captain several years ago, has now worked on revamping the electric vehicle team, which is another build team that's working on electric motorcycles that are powered by hydrogen fuel cells. So there's a lot of exciting things going on for our team members and what they do afterwards. And then there's a lot of exciting things going on in industry within the solar car world. These are two of the most prevalent examples of solar cars that are going to enter the market very soon or have just entered. There's the Lightyear and Aptera. And in fact, Lightyear was founded by members of by alums of a solar-powered car team from the Netherlands, Eindhoven. So our team is super excited to be in this rapidly evolving field of solar cars in industry. And beyond just the solar car, we're really excited to expand our skills and to gain lessons and to address sustainability in the long run. So thank you to everyone who came, and thank you to the organizers of this event. Thank you for inviting us, and to the Edgerton Center for giving us the space, the resources, the machine shop to do what we can do. And lastly, I'd like to dedicate this presentation to Anita Warden, who recently passed away. Anita Warden was a founding member during the team's early days, and she was actually the wife of James Warden, who founded the team back in 1987. And thanks to James and Anita, we're able to continue our mission, and we're able to build these cars. So we're endlessly grateful to them, and we're grateful to you. Thank you, guys.